somebody sitting there.
And let me include the shirt. And this picture. Okay. Bonnie Rice. Hello. Hi, I'm Daisy. Welcome to your house.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. I can just sit there and you guys can answer all the questions.
That's what Michelle said the same thing.
Yeah, I was expecting you to pick up the slack.
We'll let Bill and Bonnie.
Excellent.
You see that? Bill and Bonnie can do it.
And Roger, I have her envisioned in my head, and I can't because it would give away spoilers, but I can give you examples just from the episode we're shooting right now that are just phenomenal. Episodes that have already aired, like episode, I don't know if you watch my show. Raise your hand. We did this market in episode 2 and 2 of this season that's just like a big long thing with a bunch of vendors, and you just write it as a thing with a bunch of vendors, and then you go there on the day, and the things that they have done to bring it to life, and the things overhead, and just all of the details that you see on screen, and it just creates a visual painting. It's just amazing work. So yeah, it's collective community ultimately.
But that being said, what is the most important is the story. And we are here just to facilitate the story. So the art department should never overshadow the story. So we're also very lucky to have a strong story. If you really notice the background, that's okay, but it shouldn't interfere with what they're doing. So we want you to watch the story, and then afterwards and believe where you are, because you're usually not where you think you are. Like, we create a world somewhere else, but want you to believe that you're where the story says you are. For the beginning, our show's supposed to take place in New Orleans, and we do the whole thing in Conyers, Georgia. So, and that's, so luckily everybody believes we're in New Orleans. So occasionally we'll do a little bit of shooting in New Orleans, but not much. So, yeah, here you go. And look, here we go.
And more people are coming.
More people are coming. Come on. Now she writes it, we create the environment, and then these two gentlemen point the camera, and this. Now she deals. I deal with inanimate objects. She deals with the talent. You point actors.
So now we're joined with, we got Lucina Stover, who is the acting coach. And we have Kurt Jones, who is one of the cinematographers, and also Roger Shignaria, who is another cinematographer. So, yeah, take it away.
We create the sets, and then they point the camera and make sure they shoot it, they light it, they make it beautiful. I can work till the cows come home, but if they don't put it on film, nobody knows. So.
And if she doesn't work with some of our actors and help them find the character and the moments and the beats, then anything that we might write on the page is just going to fall flat on the screen. You know, it will look gorgeous because of these folks, but if the actors don't deliver, then it's just, it's all, everything works together, it's all of a piece, and so Lucina makes that happen.
So questions?
Just for the writing, how far out do you think of the storyline? Do you have it like years in advance, or are you more reactionary?
20 years.
20 years.
We typically, yes. At the start of any season, we have a discussion about what the season would be. Our seasons are 22 episodes. In the actual writing, we're usually a good 5. We know where we're going in the next chapter. Julie likes to write things. Julie that created the show. She also created the Vampire Diaries, so she helms the ship. She likes to think of things in chapters, and in terms of the writing itself, we always try and write a couple of episodes ahead, because all of these folks need time to prepare. We can't give them a script and say, hi, we need a whole fill in the blank, I can't give away spoilers, tomorrow. They need time to prepare the sets and create things and design things and plan shots and think about lighting and order the actors and yeah, and so in terms of writing, for example, right now we're shooting episode 15 of the season. Episode 16 will start on Tuesday, so they already have scripts for 16. They already have like a story rough area for 17, and then the one for 18 will be coming very soon, so that they can start thinking ahead and doing what they need to do.
Okay, I'm going to
Yes.
As a
Simon, what's the process? Do they come to you when they have questions, or do you always work with them, or?
You know, it really is kind of a made-up process in this position. I'm kind of like the hired on doctor on set. So if there's a problem, I'm supposed to diagnose it and help treat it.
Okay.
And anyone can ask me for help. So the producers, the writers, the executive producer, the actors, the ADs, anyone can come to me and go, so we have a problem and we need you to help fix it. The typical process, our process for our shows, we sort of developed on our own because I've been with Julie Fleck, The Vampire Diaries from the beginning. But I've also been on other shows and movies, so everybody has their own process. Every director has their own way of wanting it to work. But our process, we have a big synergy between us and a real chemistry between the writers and producers and myself. And they kind of trust me that if they give me the information and tell me who's working, that I'll reach out to everyone to make myself available. That I have already got their directives from tone meetings, from any breakdowns and any questions that I ask them. And my job is to just understand what they want more than anything. And then to be a part of each actor's process however they want me to be it. If I'm then asked to do more with a specific actor, even if the actor is not necessarily aware that that's what that's being asked, I just find my way in and make a relationship with them. So it is sort of like being the doctor on set. If there's a problem, if there's even just some people just wanting wellness treatment all the time. A lot of people don't have specific issues that need to be treated, but they're trying to stay in shape. And most of the actors on the shows will tend to take advantage of a prepaid doctor who will always be there to help them remember and help them stay in shape and help them stay connected to their character and the story. Because specifically in television, we have the worst schedule for actors when it comes to prep. We don't have any on the day. So the day is not about rehearsing the acting for the actors. So the actor has to come in with all of their work done and then be malleable for the director and all the technical work on the day. So anytime that they can eke out time to rehearse with somebody who can keep them connected, most of them will try to do. Sometimes I'm on set. Very often I'm on set to sort of help spot treat things. If actors who have to do particularly emotional scenes and they may be falling out of it and need to be triggered into it. Some directors like this relationship very much and use me to help them find language for actors because actors are going from director to director to director throughout 22 episodes. So it's really just being available for any possible need to treat issues or keep people in shape. Awesome. And Julie Fleck needs some applause for that because we've got to keep it there. Deciding we need an acting coach is an important thing.
Yeah. I'm going to grab a seat. We're getting just a little tease of what's to come. So I don't want to give too much away.
So, as you're filming, you guys obviously keep up on the latest technology. There's a lot of surround and circle and zoom shots outdoor. How do you deal with like the Atlanta weather in general? Do you guys just gear up and go for it, or do you cancel shoots sometimes?
Yeah,
Wait for the right day?
we've canceled a couple times for snow.
Yeah. Snow again last
we-
year this week.
Yeah. We plan as well as we can for the weather, and we'll change the schedule when needed, or if we can't, we go out and we know the story can deal with the fact that a certain scene is in the rain, we'll shoot in the rain.
Are there how many people total, or any given scene are on set?
Total?
Like shooting for your going to use specifically.
Camera or everything?
Throw it out there. I'm just keeping the conversation.
60, 70
Every
maybe?
possible angle. and
Try
just
100.
use what you can.
100? Yeah. I mean, the full crew that would be beyond, be probably like 100. Maybe 60 to 70 like on the set, because they'll be doing other stuff like, Carol and her team, and they're doing all that other stuff like, on other sets ahead of time that we're going to go into a day or two later. Or he'll be building a set, we'll be building a set that we're not going to use for another episode because it's so grand, so there are a lot of people. But I mean, in terms of coverage of a scene, we have 2 cameras usually rolling. We'll shoot it.
Is it all film, or is there
No.
guys running around still photography as well?
No, still photography is for promotional and for the studio, things like that. We shoot on digital. We
So you can
do.
just extract any pictures or anything that you need, production and
Yeah, but no, I mean, if they want specific promotional stuff, like the stuff you see like on the internet or in Entertainment Weekly, that's,
commercials on the
oh, the commercials,
Yeah.
that's taken out of what we shoot. But that's taken out ahead of time before we get to fine tune it all. So sometimes we see commercials and it makes us sad. Because it's not color time yet. It doesn't get color time until about 3 days before it airs. So some of those promos you see are early versions, but that's all from footage that we've shot.
Have you been on the show the whole time?
Yeah, I've been on the show the whole time.
There's another question. I had two questions, but one of my questions was like, for the feel of like New Orleans, I know you guys come here. Would you guys ever consider like shooting on film, using film instead of like digital film? Is like that a possibility?
No, I mean, well, that's not really going to give you the feel of New Orleans any better than digital nowadays. I mean, we're at the point now where unfortunately digital's as good, if not better than film. We do shoot film on our show for the little witch moments that look all funky and yellow and double exposed. We actually shoot in a 35mm hand crank film camera, and the film is being multiply exposed over and over each other. That's how we get that effect. But in terms of feel, I mean, it's just how they dress the sets. I go to New Orleans twice a year. We shoot exteriors there. You know, so when you see an actual shot of New Orleans, we've shot that specifically to drop in to then make Conyers feel more like New Orleans. And then it's all about how they dress the sets and things like that. More so than what we acquire the shot.
So like for quicker shots, I know there's like kind of like a lot of good shots in there. Is that like more so you guys getting the right shot, or does that more so like have to do with how they edit the film, like how they get?
Well, we shoot what the director wants and what the look of our show is, and then it's all edited later. Yeah, I mean we go in specifically knowing what we want, and then it's edited and massaged later for the performance, things like that.
Okay, another question?
Yeah. Well,
As cinematographers on like an already established show, how do you kind of like straddle the line between like making your own creative decisions and then fitting in with what the show is established to look like?
well, I've been here from the beginning, so. But
For Roger.
yeah. Go for it, buddy.
No, I mean, the good thing is to have another cinematographer there. We're always bouncing ideas off each other. We're always talking about, what can we push? I mean, what do you think? I'm thinking about this. What do you think? You think that's our show or no? So it's always, this is a nice relationship to have with another cinematographer, to be able to kind of talk about that stuff out in the open.
We have evolved. Like, I mean, we had a very specific look, say maybe the first 6 to 8 episodes of season 1, and we've got to a point where we've put more color in. It was very neutral and dark and earth tones at the beginning, and now there's more color here and there. So it's evolved on its own as well, along with the show, with the writing and the acting.
Okay, we've wrapped up. Thank you very much, guys. Authorize the producers. We're sitting, we don't.
Good. Okay. Oh, there. You're the Bonnie's producer.
I'm a line producer.
I'm the production designer.
Creative producer.
You're pretty creative. Great. No questions.
Tell us more. What I do? I'm around and I'm a fan. The day-to-day stuff that happens on our show, that all kind of starts with me. Not on the creative, on the logistical end of everything. And when we're shooting an episode and we're prepping an episode at the same time, I'm very involved in the prep of the episodes. There's a production manager that I work with, and he deals with a lot of the day-to-day stuff, a call sheet, organizing the crew. I'm just there in case a fire happens and we're out.
Well, Bonnie is very much she's the big picture woman, and that you know, a lot of people deal with exactly what's happening on the day. Bonnie looks at the entire season. Bonnie looks at where we are and how much money overall we have to spend for a
Money
season.
is a big part of it. I watch the money from, start to finish. I'm responsible to report to the studio, really deal with the network so much, but the studio gives us a budget to watch that and make decisions based on financial impact as well as creative impact.
Right, but Bonnie is also an amazing kitten wrangler, basically. You know, if you consider the kittens to be the actors, the DPs, the different department heads, the individuals that work there, they're all under her purview, and she's constantly juggling between agents and between, and I mean agents for actors, and I mean agents for myself and the DPs, and cutting deals and making sure that everybody is there to work on time and everything. It's a very, very difficult job.
I'm the first one in and usually the last one out.
Yeah, I'm the last one in and the first one out.
When I grow up, I want to be well.
How did your career path sort of lead you to that?
I have an accounting degree. And I'm from the Midwest, I'm from Chicago, I went to school at University of Illinois, I have an accounting degree. 2 years out of college, I moved to California and got a job at Warner Brothers Studios in the accounting department. I was there a year, and then I worked for Johnny Carson's company for 2 years. He was folding his company, and I knew that people were out in the world with my skills working on TV shows and movies. So I pursued that. So I was a production accountant. I met Amy, my very first TV movie that I did here in Atlanta. And that was in the 80s. And I stuck with accounting. So I was freelancing basically, from show to show, traveling a lot. And the natural progression for an accountant is I deal with the production managers, I deal with the money. So you deal with all the off-production departments and start realizing like the guy that you're working for is, wants to trust you with more financial decisions. So I started taking on more and more responsibility, working on bigger movies, and then kind of moving up that way. So I started moving into production managing, and then the next step is line producing. Just being in charge of more stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna grab Bonnie and go for a second or keep this episode.
Great.
But Bill,
This
Bill,
was
do you
hard.
do you want to say something?
No.
Besides the show, the entire look of the show is Bill's vision. Based on what the creators of the show have an idea, he brings that all to life. Otherwise, it would just look like this. All right, we'll see you in a minute.
All right. So we are waiting for another special guest to come out, but I wanted to go ahead and start introducing the phenomenal people that we have here that have done so much to put together and keep the originals going. I don't know about you guys, but I am definitely a fan of the show, so I'm excited to meet these people. Please give a hand overall. All right, I'm going to stand back here with you guys so that you can focus on those that really matter. Okay, so first we have Ms. Bonnie Weiss, am I pronouncing correctly?
Yes.
And she is the producer for the show. Then we have Lasanya, and she's an acting coach for the show. And you also do, you're with the company acting studio here in town, and you also do the Vampire Diaries. Okay, so, and are you Carol? Yes. This is Carol Kelly Vane. Actually, Carol Vane Kelly. I apologize for that. And she is our set decorator. And we have Michelle Paradise, one of the writers of the show, that keep us intrigued for Next we have Mr. Bill Ivan-Grote, correct? Yes, yes. He is our production designer, so all of the phenomenal we have Mr. Kurt Jones, cinematographer. So
kind of just jump right in with some questioning for you guys. And but before I do, congratulations on getting kicked off to my third season. So my first question is going to be for both Michelle and Bonnie. Okay, one or the other. I want to know, being that Americans are so into vampire tales these days, we all know, that one trilogy, not trilogy, the one series that's been going on and the different shows. What is it about the original that makes such a draw? What keeps people so intrigued about it that's different from the other shows?
I don't know. I mean, you probably have to ask the fans of the show. I mean, I think in the writers' room when we're talking about these those stories and these characters, we're talking about them as stories and characters. We're talking about, and on our show, we really focus on the family, the Michelson family, the relationships between the siblings, the relationships between them and the other people in our world. And for us, it's very much a family show. The fact that they are vampires, werewolves, and witches is almost secondary to all of it. We don't break episodes because they're vampires. We break episodes because they're characters that we love, and it's a family that we love, and relationships that we want to explore. And so I don't know how that makes it. I think maybe the vampire and werewolf and witch of it all is really great icing on the cake, and that part of it makes it different. I'm not sure what it is about vampires specifically that draws people to it. Maybe other people have some thoughts on it, but for our show, it's I don't know, we really love these characters. We try to explore them in the best possible way. We try to make them as rich as possible, and make their relationships as rich as possible, and really focus on those relationships. And I think at the end of the day, if we were just a vampire show, I think people wouldn't tune in. I don't think people care enough just about vampires to come back and watch a show every week. Last week we had, I'll just kudos to all of us right here. We had our highest viewership ever in our series. And I think people would have because of the characters and the relationships and and all of that stuff. So we didn't have that.
Who wouldn't want to watch Joseph Morgan and Daniel Gillis?
Yeah.
I can watch either one of those guys read the phone book. Our writing, I think it's the writing. I think what these guys, when we get the scripts, they're fantastic. And it's unfortunate that not every single thing on the page gets on the screen because we can only give you 45 minutes every week, and sometimes, the script.
42, 24.
To be specific. But, and the scripts flow all together, so it's very much of a story that just continues all season. I think that's why it's just interesting. That's why I think movies like Twilight went for 4 movies, because you want to just keep knowing what you want to know what the story is. You want to see what.
Okay, so my next question is going to be for you, Lasenia. I'm curious. Now, you worked on Red Man Society, is that correct?
I worked,
acting,
yes, but not directly on the set. I was hired to prep.
Yes.
I was hired as a prep coach.
So that's very different than working, on kind of a supernatural. What was that like, switching back and forth between, kind of the two mindsets?
I think some of it's more of the switching in style rather than switching from supernatural, because like Michelle said, they're human condition stories. They're stories about relationships and family and parents and children and brothers and sisters and people being sick and people needing help. And those stories are the same in most of our stories on television. So that switch for what I do is not difficult at all, because I'm coming at the actor with a character with a motivation and a family with a need. And it's the same whether he's a patient in a hospital or being held hostage with a vampire. They still need things. And so for me, it's actually not that hard a transition at all. There was a twisted comedy aspect. If you watch Red Man Society, then you'll know that's funny. To that show, that is different. And so making sure that people can hit jokes and understand timing, and doing that is something that I don't have to do a whole lot of on these other shows. So working on Red Band offered me that opportunity to make sure that people understood that level of wit, clever sarcasm, and hitting the timing of a joke that writers are super specific about in getting a beat across.
My next question is actually for Roger and Kurt. I'm curious to know, what is pre-production like for you? Because the show has so many different aspects and feelings. I want to know what pre-production for a single episode is like. You know, walk us through, you know, what you go through to get what we see on screen.
Well, we get the script first, we read the script, and then we talk about certain scenes with the director of what they want to visually see, how they want to visually translate what's on the page to the screen. We'll walk through all of the sets that will be shot. We'll scout new sets that haven't seen yet, or scout locations, or possibly new sets, I should say. Work with the visual effects people if there's any visual effects in the shot, and just basically overall decide what the tone is going to be visually. So that way every day when we come in, we know exactly what we're doing, and if there's any special equipment we need to order, I order that ahead of time. Basically that way when we get there on the day, we know exactly what we're doing and how it's going to translate what's on the page to the screen.
And so that brings me to my next question, which is actually for Bill and Carol. So now you know you have your scripts and your writers, now you have your vision from the directors, and then now it's about helping those two, the writing and what the director and the cinematographer and everything wants. Now it comes to you to begin to visualize it for us. How do you guys go through that process?
Well, as you said, it pretty much everything starts with the script. Whether it's Michelle's script or one of the other writer's scripts, it starts there. And then what's a little different on a television show than perhaps a feature film is that we communally, the DPs and myself and the producers and the writers and Julie Pleck, the executive producer, we have a little stronger hold over how something is going to look. Because we work on such a quick schedule, sometimes sets will already be in process or designed before the director for the episode ever gets there. It's not that the director is, not involved with it, it's just sometimes we have a stronger understanding and feel for where the entire show is going, not only necessarily for their episode, but for continuing episodes beyond that. So I would say that we kind of start with what the true needs are, and sometimes it's a mathematical process in the sense of, if a script is 60 pages long and 10 of those pages take place in a new place that we know is maybe going to get used again, well, there's a reason to build that set as opposed to go and find it. So sometimes it is mathematical. Sometimes it is because of understanding that certain locations just aren't findable or not as easily accessible. Quite often on other shows I've built a lot of hospitals, I've built a lot of restaurants, I've built a lot of things because of availability, both for cost and physical availability. They're just difficult to get into, they may not exist. Tunnels under some old forgotten building. Maybe you can find them, maybe you can't, maybe it doesn't fit with the schedule. Because that's the other big player in this, is that we work a lot with a schedule. We work with, we have 8 days to pull this off. And if we know that we have to go out to a baseball field on one day, and we're going to shoot there for half a day, what are we going to do with the other half a day? Are we going to go back to the stages? Are we going to find some portion of the baseball field or the dugouts or some team room that we can turn into something else that's going to work for the rest of the schedule, for the rest of the day? After that's kind of gone through, basically I turn it over to Carol's talents to, if I say, I want this to look like a hospital room and this is the space that we have to do with it, I might come in and say, all right, I'm going to put a wall in front of the wine cases, I'm going to put a wall over there, we're going to plug that center window and this is going to be where the hospital bed is. And then Carol will go out and do amazing things and find everything we need to actually make it look like a hospital room. And I'll just stand there and say, yeah, I did that. What else do you have to say, Carol?
Yes, that's what it does. Yeah, that's exactly right. Our job is to make you believe where you are. So if in fact we have a whole half a day in this neighborhood, but we still have to do a half day at a hospital, they'll do that. They'll tell Bill and I, we can get into this space, make it look like a hospital, and that's what we do. We rent things, we buy things, we build things, and we do research, we look at images of what real things look like, and we bring it in. You bring in the track with the curtains. And you try to zero in on the things that are most iconic for a set. Like in this restaurant, you have this beautiful wine, rack. So which we actually have done on this set, which is beautiful. But in a hospital room, you have the bed with the back wall with that little thing across the top of the bed that has the light coming out of it. So luckily for Atlanta, we're starting to develop a lot of local resources. Alpha Medical has just opened a prop house here. So we just turned our cafeteria into an autopsy room.
That makes eating really nice.
Spoiler alert.
And lunch was awesome.
Lunch was great. We had that green paint on the wall, and what we did was we brought in stainless steel walls, we had the drawers, and we had tables, and it already had the linoleum floor. It had a few things that were kind of iconic to that, but we made it work, and ate around it. And there you go. So that's what we do. It's driven by schedule and by money. So there you go.
So what is that turnaround schedule like for you? You get the script and you've got to build, find,
right.
How long is it?
My department, the set decorating department, is almost the last man standing. We're like the last ones to finish, except for maybe set lighting. I put in all the lights and every light and always more, and then they have to come in and power it up. But the schedule can get very tense. Sometimes we won't do a 24-hour day, but I'll have like 2 crews doing 12 hours. I'll have a crew from 6 to 6, and then if it has to shoot at 7 o'clock the next morning, I'll have a crew that comes in at 6 that night and works with me from 6 at night until 6 in the morning. It's not a glamorous business at all. They didn't recognize me when I came in because I had on makeup. I never wear makeup. It's something that we're usually just tired a lot. That's all there is to it.
And what kind of budget are you guys usually working with for your department?
My department?
Yeah.
Money.
Well,
It varies.
It varies based on, pretty much based on, the budget's kind of, they're based on the scripts.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is we have a certain, like a bottom line that we have to hit. And if it's a big set dressing episode, Carol may get more money. We may not have as many locations, so locations gets less money. So it kind of varies, and it's script driven. But after you've worked together for a while, you figure out how you balance things out. Carol works closely also with the prop master. There's a lot of crossover. For example, if we have a restaurant scene, Carol will dress the restaurant. The prop master is in charge of the food. Just kind of the way it is. So there'll be a little crossover. Wardrobe, depending on how many changes. If you watch an episode of any television show, you'll see that sometimes everything happens in one day, and sometimes it happens over 3 or 4 days. So there's multiple changes. So sometimes the costume department needs more money, and there's more characters, or there's more background. Sometimes there's jewelry that can cross over with the prop department. So the money there's a bottom line that I'm responsible for, and I kind of divvy out the money based on the script and what they think that they need and what they want to do and how they want to spend it.
Would you tell us more about the things that you are involved while production is going on? Like each episode, give us a typical day.
Typical day for me is I'm usually prepping the episode that we're going to shoot next, for the most part. I'm still involved with shooting. There's a production manager that I work with, and he deals with the day-to-day operational stuff. We usually both open set, not necessarily, but we'll get a script the first day of pre-production that we'll all read through, and I get together with Bill and one of the cinematographers, depending on, they rotate. One of them will be shooting, and one of them will be prepping, and a location manager, and the director, and a first assistant director for the episode, who also rotates. So we'll get the script, we'll read it, we'll all powwow,
figure out, all right, what should be our approach for this episode? Do we think we need to go out? Do we think we need to bill? What does the director have in mind? What's coming up in future episodes? So on their first day, we'll just get the script, kind of review it. We'll have what we call a concept meeting that just has all the department heads. We go through the script line by line, see what the director's vision is. Also, usually a writer is involved. After that, we'll start scouting locations. We'll start talking about sets. After that, we have other department meetings. Every department will have a meeting over the first few days of prep. We only have 7, sometimes 8 days to prep an episode. We get going on it, so we make a lot of decisions based on that. But every day, it's a lot of meetings, and it gets into very much a routine. But we have meetings. Thank God we have a big bowl of chocolate and candy that goes around. Everybody knows the big bowl of chocolate. Our conference room is kind of like the heart of our operation. And we're either in a van scouting locations or we're in meetings. And I don't get to spend a whole lot of time on set because I am dealing with prepping the episodes. But once we get to the point where we're pretty much prepped, then we want to make sure that the writer, director, and all the department heads are all on the same page, and we have something called a tone meeting that really outlines exactly what the whole scope of the story is. So creatively make sure we're all on the same page, and then the next day we start shooting and we start prepping the next episode. So it's very much like a little bit of a hamster wheel, but they're all different because every script is different.
I think one of the most phenomenal things about the originals is the writing, is the storylines. And so I'm curious to know, when you're going into a season or the show in general, I know the show Lost, that had a specific beginning and end across the season. And I'm curious to know what the thought process is as far as scripting for the originals. Would you shed some light, please?
Sure. Usually what we do at the start of any season is we'll talk about the characters. The first season is a little bit different because we didn't have anything before except for what they were doing on Vampire Diaries. So we'll speak specifically to season 2. We started the season talking about where each of the characters were, what their arcs had been over the course of the season, and then and then where they could go over the course of this season. And Julie, who created the show, and she runs our show and Vampire Diaries, and Mike, who runs our show on a kind of a day-to-day basis, will often have some ideas in mind already, like places where they think the characters might go over the course of the season. And it becomes kind of a communal discussion. We'll spend a few weeks just sort of talking about characters, what kind of trouble they can get into, what they might get out of, where are they emotionally at the start of the season, where might they be emotionally at the end of the season. And we'll just sort of have a rough sense of what that might look like for our show. We call them the big bads, like the big bad characters that might come in and be foils for our leads. And then we'll get into just the individual episodes themselves. Julie really likes to break by chapter, and a chapter might be 4 to 6 episodes. And so we'll talk about what is this chapter going to be, and where will our characters go over the course of this chapter? What is it going to look like? Are we going to have some bad guys come in? Is it just going to be about our family? What's happening in the family dynamics? What's happening with Klaus and Elijah? Are they on the same page in this chapter? Are they breaking apart? Are they coming together? Just all of those sorts of things. And then once we have just kind of a rough sense of what the chapter is like, then we can break it down to what do each of the episodes need to be. And then once we have a rough sense, again, of like big picture level of what the episodes might be, then we're breaking it down to individual storylines for each of the episodes. And then once we have that, we'll start to get specific for each of the beats within every act of every episode. And then once we have that, then the individual writer or writers who are in charge of that episode will go off and write, and the rest of us will stay in the room and then continue on and do the next thing for the next episode. So much like production, where they're always looking ahead to the next thing because they have to prepare the next thing, in the writer's room we're doing the same thing. The writer will go off and write an episode, and they're basically forgotten about because the rest of us are in the room looking to the next episode and breaking that, and then seeing how that would affect the one after that. It's just it's kind of a hamster wheel, a train, something that just keeps going because you have 22 episodes that you need to churn out over the course of the season.
Right. So, one of the more interesting aspects of the show, at least for me, I don't know about the audience, is kind of the sci-fi elements, the how of it. You know, when the werewolves are transitioning, or when the vampires are, they're behind me, and then all of a sudden they're flying up. And, I want to know the behind the scenes. How are you guys doing that? I'm not a director. I'm curious. Doing it. It's all real.
Just turn on the camera.
Describe how we do a vamp.
A vamp?
Yeah, a vamp and a whoosh.
And a cranky.
Explain the difference.
And a cranky.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
We definitely employ different cinematic ways of tricking the audience on how we do this. For example, when you guys see the witch power, we actually bring in a 35mm hand crane camera, and it's great. It sounds like a coffee grinder, and it brings it away. And, yeah, it's 60 years old. It's what Charlie Chaplin used, and we do it. And what we're able to do with that is kind of visually double expose the film, and when you guys kind of see this kind of shaky cam look where the image might be kind of shifting, we're actually it's happening in camera. So for me, I always think that kind of stuff is really fun. It was something that drew me to the show when I was off the show and talking to Kurt about it. I thought, I love the fact that that is truly done in camera. So there is no VFX, or what you see is really how we shot it. So that's always kind of neat. Some of the vamping where people kind of speed off, that's something where again, it's another cinematic trick of having people freeze and then moving one character in a frame, and then that's sped up in post, and it basically looks like somebody just disappeared in a second. But we do a lot of that kind of stuff on our show. We do a lot of in-camera trickery, and we kind of pride ourselves on it. Me and Kurt are always talking about, hey, how about, what if we push through this, and it goes to darkness, and we cut to that, so we're always trying to come up with clever ways to do some of these things, because sometimes, it's not always about VFX and throwing it on their table. It's always nice when you can kind of integrate it all, and integrate visual effects with built beautiful sets, and that's always kind of fun for me, when we kind of are integrating it, and you guys really can't tell, are you in New Orleans, or where are you guys? So it always, that's always kind of fun for me.
When you are auditioning for actors and actresses to be on the show, how do you decide on your talent, and how can they stand out, especially if it's on video, they don't get to interact with you?
It depends on the character, and it depends on the size of the role. So if it's we almost always we have casting agents who look for us in Los Angeles and here in Atlanta, and the local casting agents also do a wide net. So we'll often get submissions for smaller parts from people in North Carolina or wherever they might be. Typically, what it is most folks have agents. The casting breakdown will go out. The agents will hear about it. They will tell their they'll submit their clients, and then the casting agents the casting directors will decide who fits the look and the feel of the part, and then bring them in for an audition. Pretty much all of the larger roles, like a significant recurring character or a series regular character, would be cast out of Los Angeles, sometimes New York even. But we cast every single episode. We have co-star roles and smaller guest star roles that we cast locally. And of course, it's better for us financially if we can cast a local hire, because then we're not paying to fly the actor from Los Angeles, put them up in a hotel, et cetera, et cetera. Most of the time, again, that goes through an agent. I was an actor for a very long time, so I know that getting agency representation it's so easy. You just walk out your door and there's an agent waiting to see you. Since that doesn't happen, it is worth mentioning that although a lot of auditions can come in through agents and your agent getting you the audition, there are some folks who have put themselves on tape who have actually gotten parts. I could be wrong about this one, but I believe that that Sonia Sohn, who played Esther, was a self-tape. Of course, she has an audition. I mean, she has an agent. She was on The Wire, which if you guys haven't seen, please watch The Wire because it's just amazing. But we do cast people from self-tape. So if you're an actor and you don't have an agent, but you have a way of getting the breakdowns and you can find that route for sending it in. It would be a little illegal, but you could probably figure it out. Not that I ever did that when I was an actor, because I didn't, because I always did the legal way. But you can do that, and then process-wise, what happens is the casting directors get those auditions. They whittle it down for us, and so in the process of it all, whoever is the writer on the episode, plus Julie and Mike and the executive producing team, will take a look at the auditions that come in. They'll come in via email, a link that we can look at, and then we'll just go through the auditions, and it really is the best person gets the job. On occasion, we can't cast someone who might be great because they happen to look exactly like Joseph Morgan or something, and that's really weird. That almost never happens. But for the most part, it doesn't. It honestly, it doesn't matter to us on our side of the table whether we're casting out of LA or New York or Atlanta. It's really, we want the best actor for that part, and we want, whether it's a 2-line role or a recurring character, we just want great actors in this, and actors who are going to bring those characters to life, and those are the ones who make the pay.
If you had your choice, is it going to be witch, werewolf, vampire, or hybrid? What would you be?
Well, and I mentioned this, we were talking about this the other day, the set. No, about the fact that our show is pretty much, right now, we are witches, werewolves, and vampires. And we really, Cammie's our only human right now. She's a rock star. I would rather, I would be a human.
Just stay human?
I would stay human.
Witch. Hands down, witch. I don't want to live forever. I really don't want to live forever. But I like the idea that I can, the amount of spells we come up with to really thwart just about anybody's behavior. I like that. It's really going to work somewhere, and if I just find the right spell, I can be invisible. Make me.
Wait, before you answer Carol, question for Michelle. How do you decide what they're going to be chanting when those witches are doing it?
We have, it depends on where the witch comes from. We really try to be true to New Orleans and its French and Spanish history, and so if it's a New Orleans witch, we will, our assistants in the office are really great about helping us look at Creole dialogue and things like that, and we'll give them a sense of what the scene is, and they'll actually go and write a little snippet of dialogue and then translate it into some version of Creole that we can then incorporate, and we might give them notes on whatever it actually means. But we had something, I don't want to give it away, but a witch from a different area and a different time period. So we work very hard to make sure that that witch, whatever she's chanting, even though it's a different language, that it sounds very, very distinct from the French-Spanish hybrid thing that our local witches in the show would chant.
I haven't thought about this, but it's kind of a cross between the witches and the werewolves. I used to pass out at the sight of blood, so I'm just lucky I could do the show. But the witches are tempting. I do like being real, but I do like dogs. So.
I would be a witch.
For all those reasons.
Architect.
Yeah.
I'd be a hybrid.
What?
I'd be a hybrid.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to have some audience questions.
So, do you have any questions in the audience? This is for Michelle.
Okay.
And for all the actors here in the audience. So, the big thing now is to put yourself on tape and send it in for your agency and booking. I'm sure you get hundreds for one role. 300, 400 for one particular role. How would an actor stand out? I mean, say there's a lot of good ones in this. How would that actor stand out if you deal with 300 for one role on Asante?
Well, it's the casting directors who deal with the 300. By the time it gets to us on the side where we're looking to cast the role, they'll send us maybe 10. So it's going to sound quippy. I don't know if that's right. Honestly, the best way to stand out is to be a good actor. Frankly, for all of the 300, and I've been on the side where you're looking at all of those submissions, the vast majority are not good actors. The vast majority have not taken the time. I don't mean to be rude, but there's being an actor. I mean, the honest to God truth is that a lot of people want to be actors, but they haven't done the training. They haven't trained with someone like Lucina. They don't. Acting is not just reading the lines on the page. Acting is having a perspective, a point of view, a take. You have a want, there's an obstacle, what are you going to do to get what you want? And really, honestly, the way to stand out is to have that. And if you haven't had any training, the best advice I could give you would be to talk to Lucina after. If not her school, another school. Get some training, learn the craft, because it is a craft, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that even for these small co-star, like 4-line roles in our show, I can tell within 10 seconds if someone has had training or not, and that's really the 10 seconds is all you get. They will look at the tape, and if you can't deliver in the first line, if it's very clear that you're just not inhabiting that part, or you're just reading the lines on a page, they'll skip past. It's very easy to just skip past. And so if you want to get noticed, get training, talk to Lucina, do some scene work, and then when you put yourself on tape, make sure you have a take on it. That really being a good actor is the best way to get noticed. That's the way to stand out.
So, Dina, do you have a question?
Sure.
Once you have the story written, do the writers of that episode end up
Yes.
coming to Atlanta and helping? So you're back and forth all the time?
Not all the time. We typically will write or co-write 3 or 4 episodes in a season. And so whenever it's our episode, we come out and do whatever we can to help these folks bring the story to life. And then we go back and then continue working on the future stories that are to come.
That was basically the question, is I want to know if the writers room was here or there, and how your writers room works specifically to your show. Is it different than?
No, that's typically how a writer's room will work. I take that back. Every writer's room is different. There's some writers' rooms where they don't work together, but we're all very collaborative. We all work together on breaking the stories, and then once we have a story broken out, that writer goes off, and the rest of us continue